So I feel like I'm a lecturer and you've come to my class. So welcome. Welcome back to Hong Kong U, those of you that have been here before. I just thought I'd say a few words first and then I'm happy to answer your questions. And then I don't have a lot of time because I have another commitment to get to. So as you know, we made an announcement yesterday that I will leave Hong Kong U in January of 2018, so just over a year from now. And that I will be taking up the post of Principal and Vice-Chancellor of the University of Edinburgh after that. I don't really want to go over what I said again yesterday. I stand by the statement from yesterday. I'm very determined that there should be no loss of momentum at Hong Kong U. We're embarked on a new strategic vision, and we've got a lot of plans for internationalization, innovation and interdisciplinarity, and all of those things creating impact, the well-known 3+1 I's. My team and I will work very hard during the next year to make sure that we continue the momentum and we deliver those strategic aims so that the university continues without interruption, and that my successor will be able to pick up and pick up where I've left off. I'm very optimistic about the future of Hong Kong U. I think the university is a wonderful place with fantastic students, staff, alumni and friends. It will be a wrench for me to leave the university. I'm sorry to be leaving before the completion of my term, but as you've heard, I've got a number of positive reasons for feeling that a return to the United Kingdom is right for my family and for me, and to be given the opportunity to lead a university as distinguished as Edinburgh is frankly just too good an opportunity to turn down. Edinburgh, you may not know, is my father's hometown. Matheson is a Scottish name, and although I've never lived in Scotland, and although I don't sound Scottish, I consider that Scotland is where I come from. And when I walk around the streets of Edinburgh, I think of my father, and I think that my father would have been proud to see his son as the principal of the University of Edinburgh. So for me, there's a very sentimental attachment to Edinburgh. The last thing I'd really like to do is to pay you a compliment. In the time that I've been in my current job, I've had much more interaction with media than I'd ever had in my previous life, and generally I feel that you've been polite and respectful, and I'm grateful for that. And I think the media in Hong Kong takes a great deal of interest in the university and in the education sector, and we take that as a compliment. So thank you very much for that, and thank you again for coming today. I think at that point I'll stop and answer any questions you have. Oh goodness! So let's go to him first. He was first.
Received the offer from Edinburgh.
So when Edinburgh first started talking to me, I made the point that it was really too early for me because I wasn't yet at a point where I knew what the future held in Hong Kong U. Unfortunately, you can't always control the timing of these opportunities, and I had to make an agreement with Edinburgh that either I would come or I would not come. So actually the question of a second term for me at Hong Kong U never came up because it didn't really reach that point. In terms of whether Professor Lee tried to persuade me to stay, I had a very good discussion with him the day before yesterday, but I wasn't at that stage doing anything other than informing him about the decision I'd made. So I didn't really have any discussion about whether I would or whether I wouldn't. I just informed him that that was the decision I'd made and that I was going to resign, and I resigned later that day. Sorry, you were next, yeah. Do I have any? Oh, okay. So obviously Hong Kong is a very politically complicated place, and this job has been a very politically complicated job. I've enjoyed that aspect of the job. I like complexity, and I've done my best to always just stick to what I believe to be in the best interests of the university. So in trying to simplify dealing with complicated politics, for me, it's a question of making sure you stick to your principles and you stick to your goals. And for me, my sole goal really has always been the best interests of the University of Hong Kong. So that's not something that has made me feel that I can't cope with it or that I need to leave. I've taken that as part and parcel of the job. And as I said earlier on, I take the level of interest that there is in Hong Kong U, I take that as a compliment. I think it's a real positive thing. In terms of pay cut, I'm not going to get involved in specifics, but yes, I am taking a substantial pay cut in order to take up the job in Edinburgh, and I recognise that has been publicised, but that is true.
How much would that pay cuts?
I'm not going to tell you the details.
When you apply for your new job, and some people say you are in responsibility if you resign this time, what do you think about it?
I hear that, and I understand why people say that. I mean, and that's one of the things that I've given a great deal of thought to. I don't like the idea of leaving before the job is finished, and I don't feel that the job is finished here. I feel that we've made a very good start. I feel that I've put in place some very good reforms. I've hired a lot of extremely good people since I've been here to add to the already wonderful people that were here before I started. And so I think all the ingredients for Hong Kong U are now in place. But I do recognise that the job's not yet finished. And for me to be leaving before the job's finished does cause me some dissatisfaction. But I had to take into account the fact that this opportunity is available now, not at a time of my choosing, and I had to make up my mind whether or not to take it. And as you know, I've decided that I will take it.
Considering that you have to receive a substantial cut-off for your treatment, and so why did you take a decision, and is the political environment and any pressure you're facing, so that's why you have this urgently?
Money is not the most important thing to me in the world, and so therefore the fact that there's a pay cut to me is largely irrelevant. The political complexities, as I say, to me, they're an attraction rather than anything else. And obviously Scotland is a pretty politically complicated place as well, and the UK generally with Brexit and whatnot and all the consequences of it. So it's not as if I can escape political complexity anywhere in the world. So for me, that wasn't really a major factor.
Saying that you know that you feel somewhat surprised for early leaving the job. Why would you think that it's somewhat surprised? And because it's supposed it is a voluntary decision by yourself, would you think that you're being overhead by Arthur Lee in the council?
Will I be what by Arthur Lee?
I mean, your power is overhead by the chairman of the council.
The reason I said I'm surprised is because I'm surprised at myself. It's not typical of me to leave before a job is finished. I'm surprised that I've ended up making that decision. It's taken me months of thinking about it, discussing with my family, weighing up the pros and cons before we came to that decision. So it was never my intention to leave before the end of my term. It was always my intention to try and get the job done as best I could. And when I started here, I had no idea how long I would stay. I didn't ever start with any particular preconceived ideas. So what's surprising is the fact that I've come to a decision to leave before I really ever thought I would.
Have you faced any frustration or disappointment serving in a university council where the majority of members are not university staff or students? Have you felt any constraints? Do you think the systems needs to be changed?
I think all jobs have their frustrations, and I don't think there's a job in the world that you would say there aren't some frustrations associated with it, and that's certainly been true of this job as well. In terms of the system and whether it needs changing, we've obviously got a great deal of scrutiny of the governance of not just this university, but all the universities in Hong Kong at the moment. And I think some of those reports, the Newby report and the Grant report on Hong Kong U, I think they will likely lead to a lot of discussion about whether some changes are needed. So that's nothing to do with me. It's nothing in relation to my own position, but it's what's in the best interests of the universities. And I think there are important questions for Hong Kong to consider about the way its universities are governed, and I think that will happen over the next few months and years. Sorry, so many hands. You all went up together. Let's do that whole row. So go on.
The students said that you left many unsolved problems behind. Do you think that your act is abandon your students and your staff?
I don't believe that I'm abandoning the students or staff, although I can understand why people might say that sort of thing. I mean, the University of Hong Kong and its management team is much more than just one person. We have a superb team in place. They will continue the work. As the president here, I've tried my best to establish a set of principles and a set of practices which I think are good for the university, and I hope that those will continue. So in that sense, my departure doesn't abandon anybody in the sense that the work will go on. I do feel a sense of loyalty to the students and staff and alumni of Hong Kong U, and I'm sorry that I'm disappointing them by leaving them. I've had hundreds of messages in the last 24 hours. Virtually every one of them has been positive and constructive, and I'm grateful for that, because I think people could condemn me for leaving, and I'm glad that so far they don't seem to have done that. Who is next? Yeah.
Relationship between you and Arthur Lee, and have you had any pressure under the council, as well as the Johanna Chan, the case of Johanna Chan, the pressure to you or make you feel frustrated while you're the Vice Chancellor?
Have I had any pressure from the council, do you say, and my relationship with Professor Lee? Obviously Professor Lee wasn't chairman of the council at the time of the Johannes Chan incident you refer to, so although he was a member of council, he wasn't the chair at that stage. My relationship with Professor Lee has actually been very good. We've agreed when he was appointed as chairman of the council, he started with two statements. Firstly, that he wanted to do whatever's in the best interests of the University of Hong Kong, and secondly, that he was not interested in managing the university. That was my job. And I said at the time, as long as he sticks to those two things, he and I will get along very well. And I believe we have got on very well. We've got on successfully in the time that he's been council chairman. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So how would you kind of evaluate on the governing board that or that is existing in the council board, and there is somehow kind of report of evaluation on the governing board? So when will this report to be released? The second question is that some of the council members have expressed their worries on Arthur Lee maybe exerting too much of influence for the next election of the next president this morning. So do you have such worries as well?
So I think it's important to take personalities out of it. I mean, the president of the university reports to the council. That's part of the structure. So the governing body of the council is the body to which I report. And so therefore the chairman of that governing body clearly is the person who chairs that body that I'm reporting to. And that's a relationship which exists in all universities around the world. And so I think we mustn't personalise it too much. And the same applies for the appointment of the next president. The appointment of the president and the construction of the search committee and the process that they're going to go through and everything, that's entirely a matter for the council to organise. So that won't be my job. It'll be for the council to do. And again, that's quite normal. So I don't think there's anything unusual about the council chairman or the council either being the reporting body for the president or being the body that appoints the next incumbent. Yeah.
Quote, "I am on the losing side," unquote. And also during the Johannes Chan episode, and you supported Johannes Chan, but he was eventually being voted down by the council. So why would you think that you would be constantly on the losing side, and how do you feel about being on the losing side? And has this affected your decision to resign? And also, when did University of Edinburgh first approach you, and how long have you taken to make the decision to leave?
Okay, so you didn't give me a list of all the times that I've been on the winning side, but there are more of those than there are when I've been on the losing side. I accept that when you're part of a group of people making decisions, those decisions won't always be unanimous. What I think is healthy in a decision-making body is that you have an open debate, you have an open discussion about what the issues are, then you come to a decision and everybody abides by that decision, whether or not, whichever side they were on. And that's the approach that I've taken to all the decisions that have been made by the council. So there have been some decisions that I've disagreed with, there have been others that I've agreed with, but whatever happens, the council makes a decision and I abide by it because I believe that's the right way to behave in the governance of a university. In terms of Edinburgh, I can't tell you the precise date when I first had a conversation about Edinburgh. There's a search firm that had been conducting the search, and they approached me several months ago about the vacancy in Edinburgh. My initial reaction was that I thought it was too soon for me to consider going anywhere else, and that I wasn't ready to leave Hong Kong U. As the discussions went on, it became clear that actually Edinburgh held a number of attractions for me, and I seemed to have a number of characteristics of what they were looking for. So there seemed to be quite a good match between their needs and what I could offer. And as time went on, I became convinced that this might be the right opportunity for me, even though it was earlier than I would ideally have liked. Just for the record, I've been to Edinburgh twice. I went just before Christmas and I went just after Christmas. Both times I took leave from Hong Kong U and all the expenses were paid by Edinburgh. And so it's an entirely separate process to any consideration of Hong Kong U.
Why do you think that you were on the losing side, and has this affected your decision?
Well, I guess if I was on the losing side, it's because there were less people that agreed with me than there were that disagreed with me. I mean, that's the nature of democracy. So you know, I'm prepared to be on the losing side as long as I've had an opportunity to give my arguments. And in all the discussions in council, there has been that freedom of discussion. So I think it's very healthy that people are able to express different views. I actually think a university is a place where different views should be celebrated. I think it's healthy to have different views and have different expressions and have the ability to debate them. And then at the end, you have to come to a decision and you have to work with that decision. And that's always the approach I've taken. So the couple of occasions when I was on the losing side haven't been enough to worry me, because there have been many, many more when I've been on the winning side. So. Well, as I said just now, I'm not always on the losing side. I'm usually on the winning side. You're just picking out examples. But generally, like most decision-making bodies, most things don't need to be voted upon. Mostly you can have a debate and you'll come to an agreement. On the rare occasion when there is a vote, and in my time here there have been a few of those occasions, then I think the system works as a democratic system should work. We vote. We either vote openly by a show of hands or we vote secretly by a secret ballot. The votes are counted, a decision is made, and the council must abide by that decision. So in that sense, I think it works as well as any decision-making body can.
You said you were surprised at your own decision. So is there a single most important factor that leads you to this final decision? Is it about the career prospect? Is it about family reasons?
I don't think there's a single factor, but I think it's a constellation of factors. But again, it's no secret that there are some personal reasons why I think returning to the United Kingdom makes sense for me and my family. So I think those have been very powerful reasons, but I wouldn't say there's any single reason. No.
Did you ever propose that you complete the job in Hong Kong U till 2019, so then you go to the Scotland? Did you ever propose that, or why are you planning to go as soon as possible?
So in the discussions I had with Edinburgh, I always made it clear that my contract contained a clause that required me to give a year's notice. They always knew that. Actually, Edinburgh would like me to start sooner than I'm able to. But I've always told them that I wouldn't be able to start until that year's contract had been, that year's clause had been honoured. And so in that sense, they've always known that. I never said to them, will they wait until 2019 for me, because I think I know what the answer would have been.
The University of Edinburgh has some attractions for you. So what are those attractions that has overweighed the attraction of University of Hong Kong?
Well, the University of Edinburgh is a fantastically important university in the UK. It's the most significant university in Scotland. It's one of the best research universities in the whole of the UK and indeed of Europe. It's got over 400 years of history. It's in the city which was my father's home. So, as I said earlier on, there's a certain amount of sentimentality for me about Scotland and about Edinburgh. I think it's a wonderful university with many qualities. Now, of course, all of that's also true of Hong Kong U. Hong Kong U also has a distinguished history and wonderful students and staff and a great international reputation. I think in terms of the two universities, you could easily say that there's not a huge amount to choose between them in terms of international rankings or international status. So I wouldn't want to go, I said in my statement yesterday, there are very few universities in the world that could have tempted me away from Hong Kong U. I certainly wouldn't go to a university that I felt was of lesser significance than Hong Kong U, because I think that would be a serious mistake. So Edinburgh has great qualities, but of course so does Hong Kong U.
When you visit the students...
Sorry, you and then you, yeah.
Okay. Okay, when you visit the students during the umbrella movement, you praise the young generation. But when they surround the council, you describe them as a mob rule. So is there any intervention makes you change your view to the young generation?
So I've spoken publicly about that before. In my opinion, there was no inconsistency between those two statements. I always took the attitude that I would condemn violence and I would condemn anything that put anybody's safety in danger. In the protests at Occupy Central that night that Joseph Sung and I went down there to appeal for calm and to try and appeal for peace. And if my intervention there was helpful, then I'm very pleased about that, because my sole aim was to try and protect people's welfare. As in regards to the council, in fact, I never called them mob. My words were that we cannot condone mob rule. So I never said that they were a mob. But anyway, that's a minor detail. The behaviours that night, in my opinion, were irresponsible, and people's lives were put in danger, including mine. And I didn't think that was the appropriate way to behave, so I felt it was perfectly reasonable to condemn that. There was no inconsistency in my position. My position was always that we should put safety first. If we're going to have debate, it should be rational and calm. It should not involve risk of anybody's safety being impaired.
Approached you at about 7 months ago. So when you make the decision to accept their offer?
I think I said several months ago. Several rather than seven. Several.
So and is it headhunters find you for the new job, or the university approach you directly?
No, it was headhunters. Most university president jobs are filled through executive search firms, through so-called headhunters. It'd be very unusual for any university to approach anybody directly, and in this case, all the initial discussions were with the search firm, not with the university directly. Maybe one more? Yeah.
Any words or reminder for you to the one who are going to take up your job, and or any obstacle, any attitude, or any expectation for the one who are going to take this job? You have to say some words to them.
I think whoever gets the opportunity to take up the job is a very fortunate person, because I think they'll be inheriting a wonderful university full of great potential and full of great opportunities. So if anyone asked me whether I thought it was a good idea, I would tell them yes. It's a great opportunity here. Come and celebrate what a fantastic university this is, and please make it even stronger, because that will give me great satisfaction to see the university getting stronger and stronger under my successor.
You have faced with any problems you have dealt with, so you have to give some reminder to how to do this job well.
Tell them to smile at the media. Thank you all very much.